I'm born and raised in Southern California, two parents, um, married, no divorce. We'll get to that part. Four children. We all were raised very, very fortunate, very loving parents. Um, and three of my siblings, well, one of my siblings was severely handicapped, and the other two were during their like teen years, had some serious handicap situations. I was the third. And so I really found out that I would be seen and validated in the family by being kind of like the Martha Stewart of the family. You know, it was like, I'll do all this, and they would give me praise. You know, at 10, 11, 12 years old, I was doing most of the holidays, getting everyone involved. And that created the disease to please. And that was not a good thing for a young, especially a young gay kid, because I was able to hide behind that. And as long as I could make your celebration, your birthday, anything great, you didn't ask me questions of like, well, are you gay, or where's your girlfriend, or those kinds of things. So growing up, you know, like every kind of child, you go through like a chubby phase and then like a thin phase and that, and you find out you get validation on looking a certain way. So I would say I was probably around 11 when I was diagnosed with asthma. And that is when I first can say I abused drugs, because I found out that if I would take my asthma inhaler and abuse it, I could swim faster, I could get skinnier. Um, but at that age, like I didn't even think that that was an addiction. I didn't even know what that was. It just was like, it brought up my competitive side of like, well, I'm beating people. I'm varsity freshman year. No one else in my family's ever like, you know, lettered in anything. So I must be doing something right. So then that goes into me having to hide getting a gym membership, if you could believe it. My parents were very, very against gym memberships because that's where they went to have sex. And so that was put in my head. And, you know, that's a very toxic message to your children. It's up until now, I thought that was parenting. Come to find out, that's just putting homophobia into a child's mind. Parenting is teaching a child how to go to the bathroom, how to cross the street, but not what to be afraid of, just in case. So that's been a big eye opener in sobriety. But yeah, so that was high school. I was friends with everyone without having one group. So my whole family thought I just never had one friend, because I never had a friend over after school and I never had a friend call. I was just like very, very strict about my studies. I was also involved in something called, it was called Crackdown. And it was like, we all thought it was going to be great for our resume to get into school. And it was a group of us that were like, quote unquote, the popular crowd. And it was like a secret society, but the school enabled it. And we would go to parties, and if people were drinking or doing drugs, we would go outside and call the police. And then the school would be like, good job. I know, right? I was super straight edge, super straight edge, preppy kid. No one would ever have seen this before you back then. So yeah, so then I'd never drank, never did weed, never snuck out of the house like my siblings, just followed the rules because I wanted the disease to please. I needed to please my parents. When my parents said go to bed, I went to bed. There was no question. And I had fear in my heart. Like, I don't want to be a disappointment, but then what if mom and dad catch me? Like, what does that look like? I don't even know. I was just so fearful. Um, the disappointment was a huge part too. I don't want them to, like, if I just skirt by and be nice and be everything that they want me to be visually, then they're not gonna ask me like, well, why are you sneaking out? Who are you gonna go see? They're not gonna look at my phone bill, be like, well, why did you call Michael at 2:30 in the morning? Why are you calling interactive mail 5,000 times in a day? Like, what's going on with that? It's like, uh okay. So yeah, so I go to college my freshman year, and I get into a fraternity, and immediately I'm accepted. And they bring out the booze, and as soon as I taste the booze, it was like, oh my god, it was so delicious. It was I mean, wait, hold on really quick. I can say my first drink too was with my mom. She gave me Campari, and 99% of the population hates Campari. And I was like, oh, this just tastes like a melted red slushy. This is delicious. I just loved it. So anyways, I'm in my fraternity, drinking starts going on. With the drinking, then comes like sex with girls can happen, sex with guys can happen. I'm in my element, no one's asking questions. And then while I'm at SC, I get involved with some kids from like really high profile families, and they're just way above like anything I've ever hung out with. And they bring out Coke. That was the first time I saw it, and I got like a pit in my stomach. I'm like, that's wrong. You're bad people. What are you doing? Oh, I can't associate with this. So that was me. I went back to my high school roots. I was like, oh, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. Right? That's my whole story. I'm not one of them. So yeah, so SC, and I get all A's on my junior year in college, all A's on my finals, and we all go out drinking. I get shit faced on Long Island in Westwood. I get home to my apartment and I'm asleep, and my mom calls me and she's like, listen, school's out, you need to be home now. You have 30 minutes to get home, and 30 minutes is not enough from LA to Orange County. It takes at least an hour. And so I was like, Mom, I drank. I really shouldn't. She's like, I don't give a fuck. If you don't get home, we're pulling you out of SC. Like, it was bananas. She comes from the direction, her way or no way. And you do it, or you're screwed. And if you do it, open sesame, she'll offer you anything. Close. If you say no, later down the road, I said no, and I'll show you what happened. So, yeah. So I get in the car, I drive. Disease to please. Don't you like my bear scratcher, by the way? Disease to please. I get in the car and I get caught on the freeway going 125 miles an hour. And the sheriffs pull up and they're like, hey. And I'm like, hey. And they're like, you, over. And I'm like, oh no. And so he's like, do you know how fast you were going? And I was like, no. Well, that was the worst. So then I got arrested, put in jail. Again, fortunately, I've, a family that just wants to erase everything, and they get me a great attorney, and it goes into like 6 months deliberation on all these different things. And they agreed to 2 months of house arrest with that stupid anklet on. So senior year of SC, I have to go in, and everyone's like, go around the room, say your name, say your degree, and say something we don't know about you. And I'm like, hi, Billy, sociology, I'm on house arrest. And the whole class is like, what the fuck? Like, all these athletes are around me too, by the way. And they're like always talking about, they know all these people in jail. Well, when I say it, they're like, bitch, we said we knew people in jail, but we really didn't know people in jail. Like, what? Like, all of a sudden, I'm the convict here. And day 2 was 9/11. Day 2 was 9/11, and I'm in the tall building downtown LA, and we were the second city they thought we were going to get hit. And so like all these like basically stormtroopers, state police or whatever, came, and they were like, you gotta leave, you gotta get out now. And I'm like, fuck no, I get 7 years if I live. Now all of a sudden I'm by the rules again. I'm like, oh, I get 7 years, and they're like, no, you have to leave. So they ship me off, and blah blah blah. That gets done. In my head, I'm like, it was her. She made me drive. She made me do it. I didn't listen to myself. By like, my siblings could have just been like, fuck you, Mom. I'm drunk. I'm not doing it. I had the disease to please. And in doing that, I created this narrative in my mind that I would, to further from that point on, I would always blame other people for my things, right? If this situation would have gone this way, if this person would have acted the way I wanted, if this person just wasn't so loud, we wouldn't get caught with all this cocaine in our pocket, because this bitch can't hold her cocaine. So I moved back to Orange County, super Republican, super conservative, date a few people. One of the people I met was like this former cult muscle guy, and we start dating, and like he's cleaning out his apartment or his house in San Francisco, and I'm like so naive again so naive. And I'm like, at the time sliders had just come out really big, like they were all over all the menus. So I come across these little glass pipes, and I look at him and I'm like, babe, did you get these? Are you making miniature milkshakes to go with the sliders for my birthday? And he's like, yeah, sure, that's it. come to find out he's been addicted to meth. He has tons of integrity. He didn't take me down with him. He was like, listen, you need to go live your life. I've got to get to rehab. And that's the first time I really had heard of someone going to rehab and not really understanding what that looked like. Excuse me. So that's the first one. And now I'm coming out into the gay world. And in the gay world, unfortunately, drugs and alcohol kind of like bind us together in bars and clubs and dancing. So skip to about 29, 30 years old. I get invited to my first circuit party in downtown LA. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm not one of these people again. And then I nosedive right into that culture. And I get offered this little Molly pill, or no, ecstasy. It was like a blue Mitsubishi or something. I take it 20 minutes in, like a typical addict. I'm like, well, I don't feel anything. I'm going to go get tequila. And everyone's like, no, just let it kick in. I'm like, well, I don't feel it. They're like, okay, here, try this. So then I'm trying K for the first time, which I fell in love with. And that became like a Sunday fun day beer bust special in San Diego. If any of you have been down there to the Hole, super fun time. But I could barely remember any of it. It's not, it's not really fun to think about. So that's where I get into my drug, what do you want to call it? Like my invitation to drug life. And then the next weekend I have to go to another party. I want to feel that again. So I go to another party and I get invited with all these like really good looking guys. And they're like, you should go on a gay cruise with us. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. Like that'll be innocent. I'll just go on there to be social. And that turned into 3 to 4 pills of ecstasy a day. I can't even tell you how much G. I can't tell you how much alcohol, which is super dangerous with it. K. And when the ship ended, I did meet some friends. Unfortunately, they're all dead. So that goes to tell you that whole story. So when we got off the cruise, I was like, I'll never do this again. I got a hotel room in Miami. I was like, this is where I'm gonna like rebound from this. And a Charmin commercial came on and I was bawling. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Where are these puppies going? Like, does anyone know where they're going? Are they being abused by all these cameramen? Like, is it too hot? Crazy. It's absolutely crazy. All right. So then that's like 29. And then boom, at like 30, I'm like, you know what? I'm moving away from this family. The family is getting crazy. They're all getting married. There's a bunch of fighting going on between my mom. Come to find out, my mom and dad had been in separate beds since like the 90s or thousands, I think. They can't stand each other. They haven't been intimate since 1981. My siblings, none of us can talk. Everyone's getting like, it's to say it's bad was putting it mildly. But we just couldn't talk. We couldn't be in the same room. Holidays ceased to exist. And boom, that affected me because that was my purpose. That was my purpose. My purpose was to keep everyone together. Whether it's in the drug culture, I kept everyone together and everyone could do my drugs. I never stole anyone's drugs. I always offered. Within the family, I was the quickest to like make sure your drink was full, make sure the lights were perfect, the dinner was great. But when that wasn't working anymore, I didn't know what to do. So I moved to Fort Lauderdale. Makes sense? Not at all. So I moved to Fort Lauderdale, home of like Gay Bears, which was great. And for like the first 5 years, I never touched a drug. I was just like, that's not my scene. I've grown up. And about 4 years ago is when my life really changed. So 4 years ago, my best friend and her son, so I was having a birthday party for her and her son, and he was graduating from high school. And after lunch, I was cleaning up everything and they turned left. The mom was behind him and they were in a Tesla, both of them. They were in two separate cars, and he crashed. And unfortunately with Teslas, the handles don't pop out all the time, especially if the metal covers it like it did in this, because he got hit head on, and he burned alive in front of her and his entire family. And no one could get him out. And that's where my drinking problem started. because she has 7 children. Her family mimicked mine like it did in the past as my youth. And I basically kind of adopted this family to just put it on mine artificially, like make it mine, like a coat. And now I'm watching this family fall apart. And the only thing she knows how to do is drink. So the drinking started every day at noon with her. And I would be over there every single day at 10 o'clock. And then the drinking for me started Thursday, Friday, Saturday at night. And then that quickly moved to every morning at 10:30, all the way until 3 to 4 a.m., 7 days a week. And it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. No drugs were involved at that point. And I remember telling myself, oh, this is just like Mad Men. I'm on the East Coast now. This is what they do. They go into friends' houses and just pour liquor, and no one questions them if you're having a rough day. They don't do that in California. I'm not like them anymore. I'm like this now. And I wanted to hang out with my gay friends. And so I just didn't have enough energy. And I got introduced to cocaine, and I fucking loved it. So I'm just gonna tell you, I loved it. That's why I'm an addict. It just freed me from anything to worry about the deaths, my family, work, any of that. I just felt like I was on cloud 9. Excuse me. And so that went from a little baggy until last February when I stopped. I was doing 2 8-balls a day. So for any of you guys that know Coke, that's quite a bit. And 1 to 2 bottles of Jack a day. And I was just feeling like this. How are we on time? How are we on time, Kirk?
You can keep going. You're good.
How many minutes? Like, what am I looking at?
Try 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Okay, cool. So, last October, some friends from New York came in to town. I wanted to party with them. I started getting into cocaine, and then that wasn't enough. So I tried meth. And I was like, that's not my story. Like, it is my story. Again, I'm not saying I'm not one of them, but meth didn't really tie onto me. I don't know why, it just didn't work. I tried it a couple times, but I remember telling myself I would never even do cocaine. Now from cocaine, I'm trying meth out of a pipe. And I'm like, wait a minute here. And my world just started going out of control so fast, like bills and payments and friends and everything was going so fast, just leaving me. And I remember it was Memorial Day, or no, it was around Thanksgiving, I think. And we have this like event in Fort Lauderdale. It's like a sex event. And like here I am in an orgy with 25 guys, meth, cocaine, G. And I'm like, is this all that there is? Like, come on, we need more stuff. This is boring. And I'm like, there's a fucking problem here. Like, there's a major problem. But it was at that moment that I was like, my life's out of control, completely unmanageable. And I want to commit suicide. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to just go balls to the wall, go to every strip club I want to, do every drug I want to, drink as much as I want to. And February 24th last year, no, February 20, yeah, of 2020, I had sent an email to my mom. At this point, she said she's never want to talk to me again. And when she said, I don't want to ever talk to you again, and she wouldn't respond, she wouldn't pick up phone calls, emails, anything. She was my crutch my whole life. We talked 5 to 10 times a day. And I did. I attempted suicide. I got a bed sheet, had it all done, tied around my head, and I got on the ledge, and something bigger than myself did come into my ears and was like, you don't want to do this. Think of who's going to find you. And for anyone that's ever attempted suicide or has friends that attempted suicide, when I was young and I was in that crackdown phase, a police officer once told me, if someone's going to commit suicide, ask them who do you think is going to find you? And the two last people on earth that they want to find them are who comes to their mind. And mine was my dog and Jenny, who had just lost her son. I didn't want her to go through anymore. So went to a hospital. Make things quick. I got put into County Broward Hospital psych ward for 2 weeks. It was horrific. It is that's a whole nother story. But for any of those of you who have gone to a psych ward or know anything about them, they're not fun. This was torture. It was American Horror Story things that I saw and what they did with people. And to this day, I will die knowing that I went back there and fixed something in that psych ward and helped some of those people, because the way they handled it was terrible. And my brother, who I think is in this meeting, and I had not talked for so many years, was the one that put the whole plan together to save my ass and said, something's wrong with Bill. He's sick. I'm getting him out of Fort Lauderdale. Put me into an all LGBTQ rehab here. And it saved my life. It is the best feeling. I'm 10 months sober. There's not a day that goes by that I don't wake up or go to bed knowing how bad that felt in that psych ward, seeing all those other people tortured as well, and knowing that I have a chance to do something about it this time and never go back to that. And that's what meetings like this, being of service, and thoughts of that are what keep me sober every day. I've now made a life for myself where that isn't even an option, because this freaking tastes so good. You know, I've had all of that other stuff and it was synthetic. And this finally, I'm looking at eyeballs that have a pulse, that are here. They are mindful. They're, you know, conscious. And I'm like, you know, we don't even know each other and we're going to get to know each other. But this is the beauty of this program. And by putting yourselves first. That's all I got.